Hello, welcome. I'm Jules. This is a video about exploring things for yourself and coming to your own conclusions. In alignment with its theme, this video is meant to be used a bit more like a workshop, so I recommend grabbing something to write with and something to write on, or you can just type notes on your device, whatever's easiest and most effective for you. This is a more intermediate topic, so if I mention terms that are unfamiliar to you, you can learn more about them in either my Start Here playlist or my glossary playlist, both of which I'll link in the description box below. In the What is Learning video, I discussed active versus passive learning, how active learning results in first-hand knowledge as opposed to second-hand knowledge, and how much more powerful first-hand knowledge is. I'd like to reiterate here the importance of active learning, of coming to your own conclusions instead of relying on other people's. Listen to other people's ideas and experiences, sure, absolutely, especially if you're at choral stage or earlier before you have reliable direct access to your own inner knowing. Other people might have really helpful insights, but then test them for yourself. Not only is this a more effective way of learning, but any human can be wrong about anything in part or in whole. Or, equally important, they could be right for their reality, but wrong for yours. For example, if I say pistachio is the best flavor of ice cream, that could be perfectly true for me, and totally wrong for you, especially if you're allergic to pistachios. And that's just about relative truths. For absolute truth, you have to use active learning. There's no other way to access it. Passive learning is what we're mostly taught to do in today's conventional education system. In this video, however, I'm going to share with you a simple model for how to do active learning, meaning that you can use it to acquire first-hand knowledge directly, and/or you can use it to acquire second-hand knowledge and turn it into first-hand knowledge. Active learning puts you in the driver's seat of your own learning, makes you far more effective at learning, gives you a much better chance at learning relative truths that are more true for your reality, and gives you the only chance at accessing absolute truth. And you can apply this method of learning to the path of mastery of any line of development, which means it can help you be more effective at improving all of your skills, every type of intelligence, and all areas of your life. And these developmental lines can pertain to any spiritual states, stages, phenomena, or layers of reality, including physical phenomena in manifested reality. Most conventional fields of endeavor fall into this category. Subtle phenomena in any realm, psychology, chi, non-corporeal beings, astral projecting to other planets, magic, etc. Causal realms and phenomena, like the inner library, the Platonic ideal forms, time travel, the manifestation process, the reincarnation cycle, etc. Polarized divinity, in other words, the fundamental opposites, yin and yang, or the void and the light. Or divinity, source, capital C, consciousness itself. These are all things that you can explore for yourself. I invite you to pause the video right now and note down one skill you want to get better at, like calisthenics, language learning, permaculture gardening, energy healing, meditation, astral projection, astrology, etc. A type of intelligence you want to improve, like interpersonal, introspective, logical, creative, spiritual, kinesthetic, etc. And an area of life you want to improve, like relationships, health, career, spiritual development, etc. If you like, all three of these could be different angles on just one thing that you deeply care about. For example, skill, hearing guidance from your higher self. Intelligence, spiritual intelligence. Area of life, spiritual development. Then, as you watch the rest of the video, ask yourself how you might apply this model to each one of these three developmental lines that you want to improve. If any ideas pop into your head, write them down. So here's the model of the learning cycle that I propose. It even comes with a mnemonic. Who learns? Those who wonder, hypothesize, and observe. Here's how it works. Wonder some questions, pick a good question, and then hypothesize what you think the answer might be. Choose a way to test that hypothesis, and then observe your test, analyze the results, and learn from them. This naturally leads you to wonder new questions. Now I'm going to cover the steps in a little more detail with some specific tips. When wondering, wonder openly. When you're wondering, really let yourself go. Ask lots of questions. Let the questions spawn other questions. Ask the stupid questions. You might be surprised how often a stupid question ends up being a really good one. And don't worry about answering your questions. In fact, let yourself ask questions that can't be answered. Anything goes. Then, pick good questions. When it's time to pick a question to run with, pick a juicy one. What question would make the biggest difference if you could answer it? Since every iteration of the learning cycle takes at least some time and effort, let yourself be choosy. You can also make your process more efficient by batching questions. Are there several questions you could address with one experiment? Note, you don't have to pick questions that you can answer. It is often in the pursuit of answering a question that is difficult or impossible to answer that we learn the most. When hypothesizing, hypothesize openly. Use a similar brainstorming approach as for the wondering phase. Then pick good hypotheses. Again, similar to the wondering phase, pick one or more good hypotheses that would make the biggest difference if you could prove or disprove them. And batch them if you can. Are there several hypotheses you could test with one experiment? Pick a good test and fail fast. Counterintuitively, trying to succeed is often the slowest way to progress. When you're trying to succeed, it makes you cautious because you don't want to make a mistake. Instead, try asking yourself, what is the quickest way to disprove my hypothesis? That will also likely be the quickest way to learn what this particular iteration has to offer. Use thought experiments. Ask questions of people who already have experience. Make prototypes. Be smart about using your time, resources, and energy, and find the quickest, cheapest, laziest, but still accurate ways to test your hypotheses and answer your questions. Then, observe. There are multiple ways of knowing accessible with the different aspects of the self. Here are some examples of what you can observe with each. With your conscious mind, practical experiments, your own or other people's, contemplation or thought experiments, research, for example, book research, observing the world directly through field research, interviewing people for their own experiences or expert knowledge, watching what experts do, prototypes. With your body, physical senses, somatic experiencing, autonomic processes, pain and pleasure. With your subconscious, emotions, dreams, visions, shamanic journeys, inner senses. With your higher conscious, knowledge and guidance from your higher self. For example, inspiration, intuition, inner guidance, inner knowing, knowledge from the Akashic records, your previous lives, direct experience of causal phenomena and realms. With pure awareness, direct experience of the void, direct experience of polarized divinity. If you're wondering, when do I act on what I learned? That's under the observe stage of the next cycle after you've formed your next question and hypothesis. Every action you take is an experiment that you can observe. You observe your action as you take it, then you wonder about how it went, make another hypothesis, and then accordingly alter the action the next time you take it, which of course you observe and the cycle continues. But of course, you don't have to take action yourself in order to observe. You can observe the natural world or other people, for example. And if you're wondering, when do I report my results to others so I can contribute back to my community, to my profession, to my academic field, or to other people, that's actually also under the observe stage of the next cycle. After you've observed a test and analyzed the results, if you're going to report your results, it's usually a good idea to include new questions and hypotheses for further research in your report. This puts you through another cycle as you question and hypothesize. Then you send your report into the world as its own test and observe responses to it for potential new questions and ideas, and the cycle continues. Now, here are some potential variations on this cycle. How to iterate. Plan this iteration, hypothesize, execute this iteration, and observe, and then conduct a retrospective. In other words, wonder. Questions one could wonder in a retrospective could include, what worked that I want to keep? What surprised me? What did I learn? What didn't work and why? And what do I want to try next? Questions like these lead into the next hypothesize phase. This is how iteration works in many innovative industries. But I would still posit that starting with an explicit wonder phase, finding the right questions to ask, before the initial hypothesize phase, can help you start down a significantly better path. For example, let's say that this is the best direction to go, but because you don't start out with a wonder phase, you end up going the wrong direction initially. Subsequent iterations do help you correct your path. So you end up eventually going in the right direction. But if you had started out with that explicit wonder phase in the beginning, it could have saved you a lot of time, energy, and resources by starting out in a more effective direction from the get-go. And sometimes starting up a less effective path from the beginning means that you can't even iterate your way to the best answers. Take this model, for example. One of these mountains will get you higher than the other. But if you pick the wrong one from the beginning, then iterating on it will at best only get you this high, even if all your iterations correctly move you in a better direction, in this case, up. You will never reach the heights you would have reached had you picked the other mountain by taking the time to find the right questions to ask from the beginning and proceeded up it instead. Another variation is one that I call OOO. Observe, hypothesize, repeat. Exciting, but it misses out on the mindfulness of wondering, which can illuminate incorrect assumptions, and therefore can quickly lead down an ineffective path. Another one is ow. Something suddenly happens out of left field that you weren't expecting. You observe that. Your natural response is, what the fuck was that? Wonder. Yes, it does tend to be more painful this way, sometimes literally, but if you spend time with the wonder phase, it can result in very effective learning, since pain, physical or otherwise, helps learning stick in the mind. And then the last variation I'm going to talk about today is wow. Wonder, observe, repeat. Hypotheses will most likely pop up anyway, but keeping the focus on the wondering can make it a very efficient and effective method of innovation, or any kind of development, including consciousness progression itself. Basically, you wonder questions without explicitly answering them, instead jumping right into observing. Observing the world, yourself, your thoughts, or simply the fact that you asked that question. And you let that observing naturally lead you to wonder the next question. This method gives you a lot of freedom. It allows you to ask questions that you don't know how to begin to answer, or even that you literally can't answer because they are by their nature unanswerable questions. If you let this cycle take you to really wild places, it can be very powerful. You can even do it as pure contemplation. You can do it in your head or in a journal. When you do it in a journal, I call it a wonder journal. I'd like to reiterate that you can apply this model of learning to any and every developmental line that you want to develop. I hope that you took my invitation and asked yourself throughout the video how you might apply these ideas to your own personal examples. If you did, then guess what? You did the first step of the learning cycle. You wondered. And if you ended up jotting down any ideas as you went, then you were hypothesizing. If no ideas happened to come to you during this video, that's absolutely fine. I personally often find it much easier to hypothesize when I'm not trying to listen to someone else talking at me at the same time. You can take some time to brainstorm some ideas for yourself after the video. Then the next step is to pick one or more hypotheses, start trying them out in your life, or researching them, or contemplating them, and observe your results. Happy experimenting!